It's Saturday, May 19th. Welcome to Pastor Bob Daily. Kate, my friend on Facebook, says, lately I've been having some weird dreams. It seems like when I pray, I get an answer via daydreams and regular dreams. I have friends that can say they hear God respond to their prayers and they hold conversations with Him. I feel badly. All I have are vague images in my mind. Kate, you're not alone. And isn't it interesting how many different ways God can speak to us? Now, I've known a lot of people that say God speaks to me. I can hear voices in my head. Some of those people, I think, really have kind of connected and they do hear God's voice. And some of those people, I think, hear a lot of voices and they're not mentally right. And it's true, there are both. And there are some people, even Christian leaders, that I absolutely don't trust when they say, God is speaking to me, God says this, God says this. And you know one of the problems, folks? We have so many people saying, God told me, that we start to rely on it and we keep getting led in the wrong direction. For instance, what about the guy that says, God told me we're supposed to build a new church, and then they borrow $5 million to do it? Not real biblical, in my opinion. What about the person that says, God told me to go in this direction, it doesn't work out, and they said, well, things just didn't work out. Well, did God tell you or not? If God told you something, then it works. Then it should work without a whole lot of prompting from you. Now, that doesn't mean we don't work at things, but I don't have to borrow money if God's telling me to do something. Where God guides, He provides. So what do we do with this? How do we go about really listening to God? And more specifically, Kate's question is, what about dreams? Now, I would have to say that there are very few times in my life when I feel like I almost audibly heard God talk to me about something. And when it happens, it's amazing. And there have been a few times that I'm speaking in front of people and God will give me a word for somebody there. Hardly ever happens, but it has happened. And when it does, it's fantastic. And sometimes the details are amazing to me. But I don't really do that very often because it doesn't happen very often to me. Some people will say, well, Pastor Bob, if you were more spiritual, it'd probably happen more. I'm not sure that's the case. But I have had things happen in dreams. It's been interesting. And I wanted today to tell you a story of something that happened many, many years ago. Something that I've never forgotten and something that profoundly changed my life and the life of my sister. I imagine probably about 15 or 16 years old. And I had this very, very vivid dream that my sister was falling over a cliff. And it was very real, very vivid. I sat up in bed and I was horrified and I ran to her room to make sure that she was okay. Now, she was just a little girl at the time. Very energetic, very hyper, very cute. And I made sure that she was okay. And I went back to bed and I even went one more time just to make sure she was all right. It was so vivid and it bothered me. I couldn't go back to sleep. Well, a couple weeks later, we were on a family vacation to Yellowstone Park, which was pretty close to where we lived, where I grew up. And my sister, as I said, was very hyper. And we used to put her on a leash. They called it a harness, a child's harness. It's wrapped around them and it had like a leash. And so, she could walk and you could keep control of her. And yet you'd kind of guide her where she was going to go. You wouldn't let her get out of your sight. And so she was on that leash. And we were at a place called the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone. And we were all looking over this cliff, and it's huge and a long ways down, and my dad was holding the leash, the harness. I should call it a leash, should I? And she was looking down, and suddenly I realized this was the picture that I'd seen in my dream, and I hadn't been here before. And I grabbed my sister and I threw her back from this ledge and threw her away back so she wouldn't be hurt. And of course, she was stunned and she was crying and the whole thing. And, you know, a little bit later, we were walking back to the car and she was on the harness. And as we were walking back, the harness broke. And I know that if I hadn't had the dream, if I hadn't grabbed her and thrown her back, that she probably wouldn't be here today. That's still profound. I still get goosebumps when I think about it. But I know that God was doing something there, and I realized at the time that God was trying to tell me something. Now, that same thing has happened actually quite a few times in dreams. I don't have them every night. I don't have them every month. I don't have them every year. But I've had enough of them to know that God does speak through dreams as well. And, you know, one of the things that I guess frustrates me and excites me at the same time is that you can't always figure God out and put him in a box. A lot of theologians would like to do that. A lot of Christian leaders would like to do that, and I used to be one of those. And it seems like every time I draw a hard line in what I say, this is how God is, he draws another line and says, nah, your lines are too small. So I've learned to think a little more outside the box when it comes to God. And I realize that God is God and he can do whatever he wants, even in your dreams, Kate. God bless you. Have a great day.